What if missing the most important interview of your life was a failure, but the greatest blessing you could imagine? This is the unbelievable story of a young black girl named Maya, who was racing to her dream job interview when she made a split-second choice to stop and help a struggling old man. She thought she had lost everything. But little did she know that old man was about to change her life forever. Imagine this. You've dressed in your very best clothes, the ones you carefully ironed the night before. Your resume is tucked neatly inside a folder, and your heart is beating so fast you can hear it echoing in your chest. This is not just any day. It's the most important day of your life, the one you've been waiting for. Now, picture yourself racing through the busy city streets, weaving past strangers who are glued to their phones, each one lost in their own world. You clutch your bag tightly, whispering little pep talks under your breath. I can do this. I'm ready. This is my chance. For weeks, you prepared for this very moment. Late nights of research, practicing answers in front of the mirror, even imagining yourself sitting across from the interview panel. Every second of your preparation has been building toward this single opportunity, because this isn't just another interview. It's the one that could change your entire future. That's exactly where we meet Maya, a young black girl with fire in her heart and dreams bigger than the world around her. At only 22, she had already faced struggles most people couldn't imagine. Growing up in a tiny apartment, raised by a single mother who worked herself to the bone just to pay the bills. Maya knew what it meant to sacrifice, to fight, to chase a dream no matter how impossible it seemed. And today, that dream was finally within reach. She had secured an interview at Garrison Enterprises, one of the most powerful companies in the city, known for its ruthless standards and life-changing opportunities. Landing a job that would mean more than just a paycheck. It would mean stability, respect, and a way to lift her mother out of hardship. So as Maya hurried toward the tall glass building that sparkled like a promise in the distance, she thought she knew what the day held for her. She thought her challenge would be convincing a panel of stern-faced executives that she was worthy of the job. But what Maya didn't know was that fate had other plans. Because sometimes, life throws you into a moment where you must choose, not between good and bad, but between what seems smart and what feels right. Let me paint the picture for you. The city streets were buzzing with the usual morning chaos. Car horns blared, buses screeched to a halt, and a crowd of pedestrians rushed in every direction, each person fighting their own battle with time. Maya was one of them, checking her watch every few steps, calculating the minutes she had left before her interview. She was cutting it close, but she still believed she could make it. And then it happened. Just a few feet ahead of her, an elderly man stumbled on the sidewalk. His grocery bag split open with a sharp rip, and its contents scattered across the pavement. Cans rolled toward the gutter, apples bounced into the street, and a loaf of bread landed in a dirty puddle. The man, hunched over and frail, struggled desperately to bend down, his hands shaking as he tried to collect his things. Now here's the part that makes your heart ache. Dozens of people saw it happen, but not one of them stopped. Businessmen in suits sidestepped him. Women in heels brushed past without a glance. Teenagers with headphones on walked around him as if he were invisible. And then there was Maya. She froze in her tracks, her mind racing. Her heart screamed, "Help him!" But her eyes flicked to the time on her phone. If she stopped now, even for a few minutes, she risked being late. If she didn't make it on time, she knew the company's reputation. There would be no second chances. Imagine being in her shoes for just a moment. What would you do? Would you chase the opportunity you've been dreaming of for years? Or would you sacrifice it, not knowing if your kindness would even matter? This was Maya's impossible choice. In that split second, two voices battled inside her. One said, "Keep walking. This is your moment. Don't throw it away." The other whispered, "He needs help. You can't just walk past him like everyone else." She tightened her grip on her bag, her breath quickening. She could practically see her future slipping through her fingers if she stopped. Yet her feet began to move, not away from the man, but toward him. Maya crouched down beside him and gently said, "Sir, let me help you with those." The old man looked up, his weary eyes filled with surprise. "Oh, dear. Thank you, child. I didn't think anyone would stop." His voice was weak, his hands trembling as he tried to steady himself. In that instant, Maya knew she had made her choice. She would help him, no matter the cost. But here's the twist. What Maya didn't realize was that this single act of kindness, this small sacrifice of her dream, would lead to something she could never have imagined. Because sometimes the universe tests us not with questions in an interview room, but with questions of the heart. And Maya, she had just passed the most important test of her life. Before Maya ever found herself standing on that busy city street, torn between her dream and an old man's spilled groceries, her story had already begun, long before the interview, long before the opportunity at Garrison Enterprises. Maya's journey was not one of privilege. She didn't grow up in a mansion or attend fancy private schools. No, her story was written in the walls of a tiny two-bedroom apartment on the south side of the city, where peeling paint and flickering light bulbs told their own tales of struggle. Her mother, Angela, was her hero, a woman who never complained, even when she worked 2 jobs that left her exhausted most nights. By day, Angela cleaned offices. By night, she worked the register at a local grocery store. Her hands were rough from scrubbing floors. Her back ached from standing for hours. Yet she never let Maya see defeat in her eyes. Maya, she would always say, I don't care if we don't have much. What matters is that you work hard, that you keep your dignity, and that you never forget to be kind. Those words became Maya's compass. But make no mistake, life was not easy. There were nights when the fridge was nearly empty, and Angela would quietly give up her own dinner so Maya could eat. There were winters when the heating bill was late, and they would bundle up in blankets, laughing and pretending they were camping inside. Through it all, Maya carried a burning determination. She would build a better life for herself and for her mother. Education became her weapon. While other kids in her neighborhood gave up or got lost in the streets, Maya pushed harder. She stayed up late with textbooks, scribbled notes under dim light, and worked part-time jobs to save up for college. She didn't just want a degree. She wanted to prove to the world and to herself that her circumstances didn't define her destiny. And so, after years of sacrifice, she graduated. The day she walked across that stage in her cap and gown, she scanned the crowd until she found her mother. Angela's eyes shone with tears, her hands clapping proudly even though she was the only parent there. That image, her mother smiling through tears of pride, etched itself into Maya's soul. But graduating was only the beginning. Reality hit fast. The bills still needed paying, and good jobs weren't easy to come by. Maya sent out dozens of applications, most never receiving a reply. Weeks turned into months, and doubt began to creep in. Was she good enough? Would anyone take a chance on her? And then came the email. Congratulations, you've been selected for an interview with Garrison Enterprises. Maya's heart nearly stopped when she read it. She whispered the words out loud, as if repeating them might make them more real. Garrison Enterprises wasn't just a company. It was the company. Known for its innovation, prestige, and global influence. A job that wasn't just a paycheck. It was a golden ticket to a new life. The position she had applied for was an entry-level management trainee role. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a foot in the door. And everyone knew that people who joined Garrison Enterprises often rose quickly. The opportunities there could shape an entire career. For Maya, it was more than a job. It was hope. She thought of her mother, still working nights at the grocery store. She thought of the little apartment that had been their world for so long. She imagined surprising Angela with the news. Mom, you don't have to work 2 jobs anymore. I got it. I made it. That dream fueled her preparation. For days leading up to the interview, Maya lived and breathed the process. She researched the company's history, memorized its mission statement, read about its CEO, Mr. Richard Garrison, a man rumored to be brilliant, but also mysterious and private. She practiced answering interview questions in the mirror until her voice was hoarse. She even borrowed a second-hand book on business etiquette to ensure she made the right impression. She didn't have money for a new suit, so she carefully pressed the one professional outfit she owned, a simple navy blue blouse and black slacks. She cleaned her shoes until they shone, styled her hair neatly, and even rehearsed how she would sit, how she would smile, how she would shake hands. Every detail mattered because she knew she might only get one shot, The night before the interview, she barely slept. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling, her mind racing with possibilities. She imagined herself walking into the tall glass headquarters of Garrison Enterprises, her confidence radiating, her words sharp and professional. She pictured the panel nodding approvingly, impressed by her intelligence and poise. And most of all, she dreamed of the moment they would shake her hand and say, "Welcome to the team." That single phrase, those 4 words, felt like the key to a future she had been chasing her whole life. But under all that excitement was a quiet voice of fear. What if she failed? What if she stuttered or froze, or gave a wrong answer? What if she blew her one chance and ended up right back where she started? She sat up in bed and whispered to herself, "No, you worked too hard. You deserve this." When dawn broke, Maya was already awake. She ate a small breakfast, kissed her mother goodbye, and stepped out into the crisp morning air. As she walked toward the towering skyline, she felt both nerves and determination battling inside her. This was it. This was the day her life would change. Or so she thought, because while Maya believed her destiny would be decided inside an interview room, the truth was far stranger. Her test wouldn't come from a panel of executives, but from the universe itself. A test not of her knowledge, but of her heart. And that test was waiting for her just around the corner. The morning of Maya's presentation arrived like a thunderclap. She had barely slept, her mind racing through numbers, charts, and possible questions she might face. By dawn, she decided, nervous or not, she would give everything she had. When she reached Garrison Enterprises, the office already buzzed with energy. People whispered about the upcoming meeting. It wasn't just any presentation. It involved a high-profile client account. And the fact that a new hire was tasked with analyzing it raised more than a few eyebrows. Some employees smirked behind her back. Others shook their heads in disbelief. Who did she think she was, walking in here like she belonged? Maya felt their stares but didn't let them shake her. She kept repeating to herself, "I didn't get here by accident. I'm here because I chose kindness. I'm here because I worked hard. I belong here." By mid-morning, she was escorted to the 34th floor conference room. The doors opened, and Maya froze for a split second. The room was massive, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the skyline. A long, polished table stretched across the space, surrounded by executives in sharp suits. At the head sat Harold Garrison himself, calm and composed, watching her closely. "Ah, Maya," Harold said with a smile. "Come in. Let's see what you've got." Maya swallowed, her throat dry, and walked to the front where a projector was set up. Her trembling hands placed a folder on the podium. The skeptical young man from her department, the one who had mocked her earlier, leaned back in his chair with a smug grin. "This should be interesting," he muttered just loud enough for people around him to hear. Maya ignored him. She clicked to the first slide. "Good morning, everyone. My name is Maya Brooks, and I've been asked to review the data from the Kellington account. At first glance, everything seemed fine, but as I dug deeper, I noticed some inconsistencies that could have serious consequences." The room went still. The executives leaned in slightly, curious. Slide by slide, Maya explained what she had uncovered. Numbers that didn't add up. Sales projections that were far too optimistic. Expenses hidden under vague categories. She broke it all down in plain, simple terms, clear enough for anyone to understand. At first, some executives looked skeptical. A few even interrupted with sharp questions. "Are you certain these numbers aren't just fluctuations?" one asked. "Yes," Maya replied firmly, "because when I trace them back 3 months, the same pattern appeared repeatedly. It's not random, it's systematic." Another frowned. "And what exactly are you implying?" Maya didn't flinch. "I'm saying that if we don't address this issue, we risk losing not just profits, but the client's trust. It could cost the company millions, and more importantly, damage our reputation." A low murmur swept through the room. Harold steepled his fingers, his sharp eyes locked on Maya. "And what solution do you propose?" Maya clicked to her final slide. Transparency. Audit the account immediately. Correct the projections before they reach the client. And implement a monitoring system so this doesn't happen again. It will take extra work now, but it will save the company much more in the long run." Silence filled the room. For a moment, Maya feared she had overstepped, that she had been too bold. Then Harold leaned back slowly in his chair, his expression unreadable. Finally he spoke. "Well done." The tension in the room shattered. Several executives nodded in agreement. One even scribbled notes furiously, clearly impressed. But not everyone was pleased. The young man from Maya's apartment raised his hand, his voice dripping with disdain. "With all due respect, Mr. Garrison, we're really going to take the word of a beginner? She's been here, 2 days? Surely this analysis is just luck." Maya's chest tightened. But before she could speak, Harold's gaze snapped to the young man. His tone turned cold. "Luck," Harold repeated. "Let me tell you something. Luck didn't put her in this room. Her eyes caught what dozens of you missed. That's not luck. That's competence. That's diligence. And that's exactly why she's here." The room went silent again, all eyes shifting back to Maya. Her heart swelled. For the first time, she felt not just like a visitor in this world, but like she belonged. The young man shrank in his chair, his smugness evaporating. Harold stood and addressed the group. "This is why I believe in giving opportunities to those who have the heart to seize them." Maya didn't just point out a flaw. She gave us a solution. That is the kind of thinking this company needs. Applause filled the room. Maya's throat tightened, her eyes stinging with tears. She fought to hold back. She bowed her head slightly, overwhelmed by the moment. When the meeting ended, executives approached her to shake her hand. A few even congratulated her sincerely, impressed by her clarity and bravery. As the crowd dispersed, Harold placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You've just proven why I trusted you. This is only the beginning, Maya. I see leadership in you." Maya's voice trembled with gratitude. "Thank you, sir. I won't let you down." "You already haven't," Harold said warmly. As Maya walked out conference room, she felt lighter than she ever had before. The girl who once doubted whether she belonged in this building had just stood tall in front of its most powerful leaders and earned their respect. But she knew this was just the first mountain. Bigger challenges would come. Tougher decisions lay ahead, and she was ready for them. Because Maya wasn't just chasing a job anymore. She was stepping into her destiny. The next morning, Maya stood at the base of Garrison Enterprises' towering glass headquarters, her heart pounding so hard she thought the entire city could hear it. The skyscraper stretched into the clouds, a symbol of power and success. People in sharp suits rushed in and out, briefcases swinging, phones glued to their ears. Everyone looked like they belonged. Everyone looked confident. And then there was Maya, clutching her worn handbag, her second-hand blazer pressed as neatly as she could manage, and her shoes polished until they shone. For a moment, doubt crept in. Do I really belong here? She thought. Am I ready for this world? But then she remembered Harold's words in the cafe. You're exactly the kind of person I want in my company. She inhaled deeply, straightened her shoulders, and walked through the gleaming glass doors. Inside, the lobby looked like something out of a dream. Marble floors reflected the light of chandeliers above. A giant golden logo of Garrison Enterprises hung proudly behind the reception desk. Employees bustled around, swiping key cards, greeting each other briskly. Maya approached the desk nervously. Good morning. My name is Maya Brooks. I'm supposed to start today. The receptionist glanced at her computer, then broke into a warm smile. Ah, yes. Mr. Garrison mentioned you be coming. Welcome, Maya. Someone will take you up shortly. The words Mr. Garrison mentioned you made Maya's chest swell with pride. Minutes later, a woman in a sleek navy suit approached. You must be Maya. I'm Clara, Mr. Garrison's assistant. Follow me. I'll show you around. As they rode the elevator up to the 32nd floor, Clara glanced at Maya curiously. You must have made quite an impression. Mr. Garrison doesn't usually get personally involved in hiring entry-level employees. Maya blushed, unsure how to respond. I just tried to be myself. Clara smiled faintly. Well, whatever you did, it worked. Just know that people here will be watching you. Closely. The elevator dinged open, revealing an entire floor buzzing with activity. Rows of desks lined the open space, filled with people typing, talking, and flipping through reports. Glass-walled conference rooms surrounded the floor, their occupants deep in discussions. "This will be your team," Clara said, leading her to a desk near the center. "You'll start as a junior analyst. Don't worry, you'll learn fast." Maya sat down at her desk, running her hand over the smooth surface. For a moment, she just sat there, soaking all in. This was it. Her chance. Her beginning. But not everyone looked at her with welcoming eyes. Across the aisle, a young man in a tailored suit glanced up and smirked. He leaned toward his colleague and whispered something, making them both chuckle quietly. Maya felt her cheeks flush, but kept her focus on her computer. She had promised herself. Nothing would distract her. The day flew by in a blur. Training sessions, paperwork, introductions. Maya did her best to absorb everything, even when it felt overwhelming. By late afternoon, she was exhausted. As she packed her things, Clara appeared again. "Mr. Garrison would like to see you in his office." Maya's stomach flipped. "Already?" She followed Clara to the top floor, where Harold's office looked more like a library than a workspace. Tall shelves filled with books lined the walls, and huge windows offered a sweeping view of the city below. Harold looked up from his desk and smiled warmly. "Maya, first day, how was it?" Maya swallowed nervously. "It was a lot, but I'm grateful for the opportunity. I'll do my best." Harold nodded. "I don't doubt that. But let me tell you something most people don't hear on their first day. This place isn't just about hard work. It's about resilience. People will test you. Circumstances will test you. And sometimes, even I will test you. The question is, will you bend or will you stand firm?" Maya nodded slowly, the weight of his words sinking in. Harold leaned forward, lowering his voice. "Tomorrow, I'm assigning you to a project. It's bigger than what most new hires would get, but I want to see what you can do. Don't panic. Just remember what I saw in you, the honesty, the heart. Let that guide you." Maya's pulse quickened. "A project? Already?" "Yes, sir," she said firmly, though inside she felt both excitement and fear colliding. As she left his office, Maya couldn't stop the thought racing in her mind. This is my chance to prove I belong here. The next morning, Maya walked into the office earlier than anyone else, determined to be ready. On her desk was a thick folder with her name on it. She opened it to find pages of numbers, charts, and a note from Harold. "Review this data. Find the problem. Present your solution in 2 days." 2 days? For this mountain of information? Her palms grew sweaty as she flipped through the pages. The numbers blurred together. She barely understood half of it. But Maya reminded herself of her mother, of all the nights she had stayed up, working tirelessly no matter how impossible things felt. If her mother could do that, so could she. So Maya rolled up her sleeves, took out her notebook, and began to dig in. As the hours passed, she found herself lost in the work. Every number told a story. Every inconsistency hinted at something deeper. Slowly, she began piecing together the puzzle. But not everyone wanted to see her succeed. The same young man from across the aisle, the one who had smirked at her on her first day, strolled by and glanced at her desk. "Big project already? Must be nice having the boss's attention." His tone dripped with sarcasm. Maya looked up, meeting his gaze steadily. "It's not about attention. It's about trust. And I plan to earn it." He raised an eyebrow, clearly not expecting her confidence. "We'll see," he muttered, walking away. Inside, Maya's nerves twisted, but she refused to let doubt win. That night, while most employees packed up and went home, Maya stayed behind. The office grew quiet around her, the city lights twinkling outside the windows. She worked tirelessly, pushing past her exhaustion, determined not to let Harold or herself down. By midnight, she finally leaned back, staring at the notes she had written. She had found something. A mistake buried deep in the data, one that could cost the company millions if not corrected. Her heart pounded with both fear and excitement. She had something real, something important. Tomorrow, she would have to prove it. And she knew this was only the beginning of her true test at Garrison Enterprises. Maya's heart hammered in her chest. She stared at the golden letters on the card again. Harold Garrison, CEO, Garrison Enterprises. It felt unreal. Just a few hours ago, she had been running through the city streets, praying she wouldn't be late. Then, she had been kneeling in the cold, helping a struggling old man. And now, here he was, sitting across from her, sipping his coffee like nothing had happened. The CEO, the man whose signature could change the course of her entire life. Sir, Maya's voice trembled. I don't understand. If you're the CEO, why were you out there? Why did you let me? Harold lifted his hand gently, silencing her. His eyes were calm, but there was a depth to them, a weight that told her he had lived through many storms. Sometimes, he said, it's good to see the world from the ground, not from the glass tower above it. Too many people forget what it feels like to be ignored or to struggle. I don't ever want to forget. Maya's lips parted, but she didn't know what to say. Harold leaned back in his chair, studying her carefully. You know, Maya, he continued, I meet hundreds of people every month. Bright young professionals with perfect resumes and polished words. They all want to work at my company. They all come dressed to impress, rehearsed and ready. But do you know what I rarely see? Maya shook her head silently. Integrity, he said simply. The kind that doesn't bend when no one's watching. The kind that costs you something. His words cut deep. She thought of the moment she had stopped to help him, of the people who had walked past, eyes averted, too busy to care. She thought of how she had hesitated for only a second before deciding she couldn't leave him there. Harold's gaze sharpened. Tell me, Maya, if you had known who I was, would you still have stopped? The question struck her like a lightning bolt. Her breath caught, and she froze. If she said yes, it might sound rehearsed. If she hesitated, it might sound like doubt. But she couldn't lie, not to him, not to herself. Yes, she said finally, her voice steady. I would have stopped, because it wasn't about who you were. It was about what was right. For a moment, silence hung between them. Then Harold smiled faintly, his eyes twinkling with something she couldn't quite name. Approval, perhaps. That, he said, was the answer I was hoping to hear. Maya exhaled slowly, her shoulders relaxing just a little. But Harold wasn't finished. He leaned forward, his expression growing more serious. You see, Maya, working at Garrison Enterprises isn't just about numbers and reports. It's about people, about decisions that affect lives. I can teach someone the skills they need, but I can't teach them character. That has to already be there. Maya felt her throat tighten. Was this the second chance? Harold's gaze didn't waver. I have one more question for you, and I want you to answer honestly, without thinking about what I might want to hear. Maya nodded nervously. Harold's voice was calm, but the weight of his words was heavy. What drives you? Why do you want success so badly? Maya's chest rose and fell quickly as she searched for the answer. She thought of the countless nights her mother had stayed up late, sewing clothes to earn extra money. She thought of the sacrifices, the struggles, the whispered prayers. She thought of the little girl she used to be, staring out a window at the city skyline, dreaming of a life bigger than her circumstances. My mother, Maya said finally, her voice thick with emotion. She worked herself to the bone to raise me. She gave up everything so I could have opportunities she never had. Every time I think about giving up, I see her hands, calloused, worn, tired. And I know I can't stop. I want to succeed not just for me, but for her, so that her sacrifices mean something. Her eyes glistened with tears, but she didn't look away. She let him see her heart. Harold sat back slowly, his expression unreadable. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he placed his hands on the table and nodded once, firmly. That, he said, is the kind of fire I look for. Not ambition for its own sake, but purpose. People who remember where they came from and who they're fighting for. Maya's heart raced. Was this really happening? Was he really considering her? But Harold wasn't done. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a folded sheet of paper. Setting it on the table, he slid it toward her. Maya unfolded it with trembling hands. Her eyes widened as she realized what was the very job description she had applied for, the position she thought she had lost. Harold's voice was calm, almost casual. The interview was this morning. You missed it, but I think we can arrange another one. Right here, right now. Maya's breath caught. This was it, the moment she had dreamed of. But this time, it wasn't a fancy office with polished floors and intimidating suits. It was across a cafe table, with a man who had tested her heart before testing her resume. For the next half hour, Harold asked her questions, not the kind you find on a standard job interview sheet, but questions that dug deeper. What do you do when you fail? How do you treat people who can't do anything for you? What would you do if you were in my position, leading a company that affects thousands of lives? Maya answered each question honestly, sometimes nervously, but always with sincerity. She didn't try to be perfect. She just tried to be real. By the end of it, Harold sat quietly for a moment, then smiled. You're not polished. Not yet. But you are exactly the kind of person I want in my company. Maya's eyes widened. Her breath hitched. Are you saying? Harold chuckled softly. Yes, Maya, you have the job. Her hands flew to her mouth, her eyes filling with tears. She couldn't believe it. She had gone from despair on a street corner to being personally hired by the CEO himself, all because she had chosen to help someone in need. But Harold leaned forward once more, his voice low and steady. Remember this moment, Maya, because your story isn't just about you. It's a reminder of what truly matters. Never forget where you came from, and never lose the kindness that got you here. Maya nodded, her throat too tight to speak. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, she felt certain of one thing. She was exactly where she was meant to be. Maya had almost reached the corner of the block when she stopped walking. Her feet felt too heavy to carry her any farther. She sank onto a bench outside a small cafe, burying her face in her hands. The city bustled around her with honking cars, rushing footsteps, and chatter, but to her it was just background noise, distant, muffled, meaningless. Her chest tightened as the thought hit her again. She had blown her one chance. She replayed the morning in her head over and over, waking up early, ironing her blouse, rehearsing answers to potential questions in the mirror, even practicing her handshake. She had pictured herself walking out of that building with a smile, calling her mom with the good news. Instead, she was here, sitting on a bench with nothing to show for it but a broken heart. As she sat there, lost in thought, a shadow fell across her. "Excuse me, miss," came a gentle voice. Maya lifted her head and her breath caught. It was him, the old man from the street. Only now, he didn't look like the frail, struggling figure she had helped earlier. His posture was straighter, his steps more steady. He wore the same coat, but in the daylight it seemed less shabby and more classic, almost refined. His eyes, still warm and kind, studied her with concern. "You," Maya whispered, surprise flashing in her eyes. "What are you doing here?" The man smiled faintly. "I could ask you the same thing." "You look troubled." Maya's lips parted, but she hesitated. How could she explain? How could she tell him that she had ruined the most important opportunity of her life? Ironically, because she had chosen to help him. Her pride told her to keep quiet, to brush him off politely and let him go. But something about the way he stood there, the calmness in his presence, made her speak. "I missed my interview," she confessed softly, her voice cracking on the last word. The man's brows furrowed. "Interview?" "Yes," Maya said, forcing herself to meet his gaze. "It was at Garrison Enterprises. 10:30 sharp. My dream job. But," she took a shaky breath, "but I stopped to help you, and I didn't make it on time." For a moment, silence hung between them. The city roared around them. But in that instant, it felt like the world had narrowed to just the two of them. Maya braced herself for pity, or worse, for judgment. She half expected him to apologize, to say something like, "I'm sorry you missed it because of me." That would hurt even more, because it would confirm that her choice had been a mistake. Instead, the old man tilted his head, studying her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Then, slowly, a smile tugged at the corners of his mouth. You gave up something important for me, he said gently. Why? Maya swallowed hard. Her first instinct was to say, because I couldn't ignore you, but the words felt too simple, too small to explain what had truly driven her. Finally, she said, because I know what it feels like to be overlooked, to be invisible. People walked past you like you didn't exist. I couldn't do that. Not when I could help. The old man's eyes softened. For a brief second, Maya thought she saw something flicker in them, a spark of recognition, as if her words had struck deeper than she realized. He chuckled softly, shaking his head. Most people wouldn't have stopped. They would have thought only of themselves. But you, he leaned on his cane, his smile widening. You're different. Maya lowered her gaze, her cheeks warming. His kind words eased from the sting in her heart, but they didn't change the reality. She had lost her chance, and kind words wouldn't bring it back. I don't feel different, she murmured. I feel foolish. The old man's eyes twinkled. Ah, but the world has a funny way of rewarding the foolish. Maya looked up, puzzled by his words. But before she could ask what he meant, he gestured toward the cafe. Come, he said, sit with me, have a cup of coffee. Maya hesitated. She had no appetite, no energy left, but something about his tone made it hard to refuse. So she followed him inside. The cafe was warm and quiet, filled with the smell of fresh bread and roasted beans. The old man ordered 2 coffees and insisted she sit. They talked, or rather, he asked questions, and she found herself answering. About her childhood, her mother's sacrifices, her dreams of working at Garrison Enterprises. She spoke more openly to him than she had anyone in a long time. And the whole time he listened, really listened. His eyes never wavered. His attention never drifted. It was as if every word she spoke mattered. By the end of it, Maya felt lighter, though still uncertain about her future. As they finished their coffee, the man leaned forward, his expression thoughtful. You said you wanted to work at Garrison Enterprises, he said. Why there? Maya smiled faintly, a spark flickering in her tired eyes. Because it's the kind of place where I could build a career, where I could learn, grow, make a difference. It's not just about the salary. It's about proving to myself and to my mom that all our struggles weren't for nothing. The old man nodded slowly, his gaze never leaving her face. For a moment he was silent, as though weighing her words carefully. Finally he stood, adjusting his coat and leaning on his cane. His next words caught Maya completely off guard. You might be surprised to know, he said softly, that I have more to do with Garrison Enterprises than you think. Maya blinked, confused. What do you mean? The man smiled, a knowing smile that made her heart skip a beat. Let's just say, I know the people who make the decisions there. Very well, in fact. Before Maya could press further, he reached into his pocket, pulled out a small leather business card case, and slid a card across the table toward her. Her eyes widened as she read the name embossed in gold letters. Harold Garrison. Her breath caught. Her hands trembled. She looked up at him, her lips parted in shock. You're? He smiled kindly, as if he'd been waiting for this moment. Yes, he said. I am Harold Garrison, the CO. Maya's world tilted. The room seemed to spin. The man she had stopped to help, the man who had caused her the interview, was the very person she had been rushing to impress all along. Her pulse thundered in her ears. She didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or fall to her knees in disbelief. Harold chuckled softly at her stunned expression. You see, Maya, sometimes life doesn't work out the way we plan. Sometimes it works out better. Maya's chest rose and fell in ragged breaths as she sat in the sleek marble lobby of Garrison Enterprises. Her palms were sweaty. Her blouse clung uncomfortably to her back, and her legs trembled from the sprint. But none of that mattered anymore, because she was too late. The receptionist's words still rang in her ears like a cruel echo. I'm sorry, miss. The panel has already left. Her heart sank deeper with every replay of that sentence. All the hope, all the late nights of preparation, all the whispered pep talks in the mirror. It had vanished in a single instant. She stared at the floor, her mind blank, her body frozen. Around her, people bustled in and out of the building. Employees with shiny badges, executives with crisp suits, assistants balancing tablets and phones. They walked with purpose, with belonging, and there she was, a stranger on the sidelines, watching a dream she had clung to for years slip through her fingers. This can't be happening. Her hand instinctively reached for the folder in her bag, the one filled with her carefully prepared resume, her cover letter, her references. She clutched it tightly, as if somehow holding on to the papers could bring back the opportunity she had lost. But deep down, she knew it was useless. She had missed her shot. A wave of shame rushed over her. She imagined what the executives must have thought when she didn't show up on time. Not dependable. Not serious. Can't handle pressure. Her stomach twisted. She had worked so hard to be taken seriously, to prove she was more than just another girl from a poor neighborhood. And now, all they would remember of her was that she didn't even show up. Her throat burned, and her eyes blurred with tears she tried to blink away. She wasn't someone who cried easily in public, but the weight pressing down on her chest was too heavy to bear. She leaned forward, resting her elbows on her knees, and whispered to herself, "Why, Maya? Why did you stop? Why couldn't you just keep walking like everyone else?" The truth stung. She knew why. She couldn't ignore someone in need. She had made her choice, and she would make it again. But knowing that didn't make the pain hurt any less. She thought of her mother. How excited she had been when Maya told her about the interview. How she had hugged her tightly, whispering, "This is it, baby. This is your moment." What would she say now? How could she face her after coming home empty-handed? The thought twisted like a knife. Her mother had sacrificed so much, working long hours, skipping meals, saving every penny, to give Maya a chance at a better life. And Maya had been so close to finally repaying that sacrifice. Now, she felt like she had thrown it all away for nothing. Her fingers trembled as she checked the time on her phone. 10:37 a.m. The interview had started at 10:30 sharp. By now, the panel would already be halfway through questioning the other candidates. She could picture them, polished and confident, sliding their resumes across the glossy table, impressing the executives with their answers. She could see the approving nods, the smiles, the firm handshakes. And she wasn't there. She wasn't even given a chance. Her stomach churned as if she might be sick. She sat back in the chair, staring at the ceiling, fighting back sobs. Around her, no one stopped to notice. Just like the people who hadn't stopped for the old man on the street, the employees now didn't stop for her. They brushed past, too busy with their own lives, too focused on their own successes. For a moment, bitterness flickered inside her. Maybe I was foolish. Maybe kindness doesn't matter. Maybe the world only rewards those who put themselves first. But then she remembered the look in the old man's eyes when she had helped him. The relief, the gratitude, the way his voice trembled when he called her an angel. That memory softened the bitterness, though it didn't ease the ache in her chest. Because kindness had a cost. And today, it felt unbearably high. She sat there for what felt like hours, though only minutes passed. Her phone buzzed with a message from her mother. "How did it go, sweetheart? Did they love you?" Maya's heart clenched. She couldn't bring herself to reply. What would she say? "Sorry, Mom. I didn't even make it inside." The thought of her mother's disappointment was unbearable. She slipped her phone back into her bag, unable to answer. Her hands shook as she rose from the chair. The polished lobby around her suddenly felt cold, intimidating, unwelcoming. She had no reason to be there anymore. As she walked toward the doors, her reflection flashed in the glass. Her blouse wrinkled from the run, her hair slightly out of place, her eyes red from unshed tears. She looked like someone who had been defeated. She pushed open the heavy doors and stepped back into the bustling city. The sun was still shining. The streets were still crowded. Life was still moving forward. But for Maya, everything felt different. Each step away from that building felt heavier than the last. She had dreamed of walking out of Garrison Enterprises with a job offer in her hands. Her future secure, her mother's worries finally lifted. Instead, she was leaving with nothing but a hollow ache and a gnawing question of whether she had made the wrong choice. She walked without direction, her feet carrying her aimlessly down the street. Every passerby seemed to mock her with their purposeful strides, their lives seemingly intact, while hers felt like it was unraveling. Her thoughts spiraled. What if this was my only chance? What if no other company calls me back? What if I never get another interview like this? She felt small, invisible, powerless. And yet, deep down, a tiny voice whispered, a voice that sounded like her mother's. When you do good, good comes back to you. Maya shook her head, pushing the thought away. In this moment, it felt like nothing good could ever come from what she had done. She had chosen kindness, yes, but kindness hadn't put her in that interview room. Kindness hadn't landed her the job. Kindness had left her standing on the outside, watching her dreams slip away. At least, that's what she thought. Because what Maya didn't know was that her story wasn't finished. The cost of her kindness felt unbearable now. But soon, she would discover that what seemed like a loss was actually the beginning of something far greater than she could have imagined. Maya's pulse thudded in her ears as she adjusted the weight of the grocery bag in her hand. It wasn't heavy compared to the weight she felt inside her chest. The crushing realization that every step she took with this old man was a step further away from her future. She could almost hear the ticking clock in her mind, counting down the minutes. 17 minutes left. 16. 15. Each second burned like fire. She glanced at the old man beside her. His coat was frayed at the edges, his shoes scuffed and worn. He moved slowly, his back bent like the years had carved themselves into his bones. The groceries in his hand trembled with every step. Maya swallowed hard. "Sir, are you sure you don't want me to carry both bags?" The old man shook his head, smiling faintly. "Oh no, child. You're already helping me more than I deserve. You must have somewhere important to be." Her throat tightened. Important? He didn't know the half of it. "Yes," she admitted softly, her eyes flicking toward the skyline where the headquarters of Garrison Enterprises gleamed like a jewel in the distance. I do, but it's fine." The man gave her a curious glance, but didn't press further. They continued in silence for a moment, the city's noise swirling around them. Honking cars, hurried footsteps, fragment of conversations. But for Maya, it all sounded muffled, drowned out by the relentless beat of her anxiety. She thought about the interview panel, sharp-eyed executives waiting in their sleek conference room. She imagined them looking at the clock, tapping their pens, murmuring, "She's late. Not dependable. Next." Her chest ached at the thought. This was everything she had worked for, everything her mother had sacrificed for. And now, because of this detour, it was slipping through her fingers. A bitter voice inside her screamed, "You're throwing it all away, Maya. What are you doing?" But then, she looked at the old man again. His breathing was shallow, his hands trembling more than before. Every step seemed like a battle for him. Without her, those groceries would never have made it to his home. And suddenly, another voice rose inside her, quieter but stronger. "This is who you are. You don't walk past someone in need, even if it costs you everything." Her mother's words echoed in her heart. "What matters is that you never forget to be kind." The two voices clashed like thunder in her mind. Ambition versus compassion. Survival versus sacrifice. She gripped the bag tighter, her knuckles white. The old man spoke again, his voice soft, almost apologetic. "I'm sorry for slowing you down, young lady. I can tell you're in a hurry. You must be going to something very important." Maya forced a smile, though it trembled at the edges. "Don't worry about me. You shouldn't be carrying these alone." Inside, though, her heart was breaking. 13 minutes left. Every block felt like an eternity. The Garrison building stood tall in the distance, but it might as well have been on the other side of the world. Her legs screamed to run toward it, to abandon this detour, to save herself. But her conscience held her still. At one point, the old man stumbled on a crack in the sidewalk, and Maya quickly reached out, steadying him with her free hand. His frail body leaned against her for a moment, and she realized just how fragile he truly was. Without her, he might have fallen, and in that instant, the war inside her quieted just for a moment, because she knew then that she couldn't have walked away, not if it meant leaving him helpless on the street. They finally reached his apartment building. a modest, aging brick structure tucked between two shiny new towers. He fumbled for his keys, and Maya patiently waited, her heart hammering faster with every second. 10 minutes left. When the door finally creaked open, she helped him inside, carrying the groceries to the small kitchen. The apartment smelled faintly of old wood and dust, but it was tidy, carefully kept despite the years. She placed the bags gently on the counter. "There you go, sir," she said, forcing a brightness into her voice. The old man set down his bag and leaned against the counter, catching his breath. He looked at her with kind, watery eyes. "You're an angel, young lady. Most people, they don't stop anymore. They don't even see me." Maya's lips pressed into a tight smile. She wanted to say something, anything, but her throat burned with the weight of everything she was sacrificing. He noticed her silence. "I won't keep you, child. You've done more than enough for an old man like me." Maya nodded quickly. "Of course. I should probably go." She turned and hurried toward the door, her stomach twisting. 8 minutes left. But deep down she knew, no matter how fast she ran, she wouldn't make it. She closed the old man's door behind her and stepped back into the busy city street. Her eyes lifted toward the glass tower of Garrison Enterprises, still glimmering in the distance. For a heartbeat, she imagined herself inside, sitting before the panel, proving herself. Then the vision shattered. Her steps quickened, her breath ragged, as she broke into a run. She ran as fast as she could, weaving through crowds, dodging cars, her shoes slapping against the pavement. The world blurred around her, but the ticking clock inside her head was merciless. 7 minutes. 6. 5. Her throat burned, her legs ached, but she didn't stop, not until she reached the front steps of the building, sweat pouring down her forehead, chest heaving with desperate breaths. She burst through the glass doors, scanning the polished lobby with wild eyes. The receptionist looked up in surprise. Maya gasped, her words broken between breaths. "I'm here for the interview." The receptionist glanced at the clock, then shook her head. "I'm sorry, miss. The panel has already left." The words hit Maya like a blow. Her body sagged, her breath caught in her throat. She had lost it. Everything she had worked for, gone. Her heart sank as she sank into a chair in the corner of the lobby, tears stinging her eyes. For a moment, she wondered if kindness had cost her the future she'd fought so hard for. She had made her choice. She had chosen compassion over ambition. But she had no idea yet that this choice, the one that seemed like her greatest mistake, was about to open a door far greater than any interview could. Maya's footsteps echoed against the pavement as she hurried down the bustling city street, her folder tucked tightly under her arm. The morning sun reflected off the tall glass towers, and the crowd of commuters moved like a rushing river around her. Her heart was a drum, beating faster with every glance at her phone. 25 minutes until the interview. She could make it. She had to make it. Her nerves buzzed, but beneath them was determination. Every step felt like a step closer to her future. She whispered to herself, "You've got this, Maya. Just stay focused. Just get there on time." But then life interrupted. Just a few feet ahead, she saw him. An old man, frail and bent over with age, dressed in a worn-out brown coat that looked 2 sizes too big for his thin frame. He shuffled slowly, carrying 2 bulging grocery bags that seemed far too heavy for him. His back was hunched, his steps uneven, and then disaster struck. One of the bags split open with a sharp tearing sound, and in an instant, its contents spilled across the sidewalk. Apples bounced away in every direction, rolling between people's feet. A carton of milk tipped over, leaking across the concrete. Cans clattered and spun before coming to rest near the gutter. The old man gasped, his body trembling as he tried to bend down. His hands shook violently, and he nearly lost his balance. And here's the heartbreaking part. No one stopped. A woman in heels stepped neatly around the mess, muttering under her breath about being late. A man in a suit barely glanced before hurrying past, glued to his phone. Teenagers with backpacks laughed as they hopped over the spilled groceries, as though it were just an obstacle in their path. Dozens of eyes saw the man struggle, but not a single pair slowed to help. Maya froze. She felt the clock ticking louder in her head. 22 minutes left. If she stopped, even for a little while, she might miss her one and only chance at Garrison Enterprises. Every second mattered. But then she looked at the man again. His face was creased with exhaustion, his hands desperately reaching for a rolling pin that slipped just out of his grasp. His lips moved silently, as if whispering a prayer no one could hear. And suddenly, Maya's chest tightened. Two voices battled inside her. One screamed, "Keep going. Don't stop. This interview is everything you've worked for. Someone else will help him. Don't throw it all away now." The other whispered, "If you walk past him, you'll never forgive yourself. You know he can't do this alone." She clutched her folder tighter. The polished glass skyscraper, where her future awaited, loomed just a few blocks ahead. She could almost see herself inside, shaking hands, answering questions with confidence, finally being recognized for her hard work. But then, her mother's voice echoed in her mind. "What matters, Maya, is that you keep your dignity and that you never forget to be kind." Her breath caught. She couldn't just walk by, not when she'd been raised to know better, not when this man's struggle was right in front of her. The seconds ticked away. Finally, with a sharp exhale, Maya made her decision. She darted toward the man, crouched down, and began gathering the scattered groceries. "Sir," she said gently, "let me help you with these?" The old man looked up, his tired eyes filled with surprise. For a moment, it seemed he didn't believe what he was seeing. Then his lips curled into a faint, grateful smile. "Oh, dear," he said, his voice shaky but warm. "Thank you, young lady. I didn't think anyone would stop." Maya offered him a reassuring smile, even though her stomach was twisting with anxiety about the ticking clock. "Don't worry about it. Let's get these picked up." She moved quickly, grabbing apples from beneath benches, chasing down a rolling pin before it reached the gutter, and gently placing everything back into the bag. Her hands moved with purpose, but her eyes kept darting to her phone screen. 19 minutes left. The old man tried to help, but his hands trembled too much. When he reached the carton of milk, he nearly tipped forward, and Maya had to steady him. "Careful," she said softly, placing a hand on his arm. "Don't strain yourself. I've got this." Bit by bit, the groceries were collected, but Maya could feel the weight of every passing second pressing down on her. She thought about the polished lobby of Garrison Enterprises, about the executives waiting in their suits, about the job that could change her life. Her heart ached. Still, she forced herself to focus on the man in front of her. When the last apple was safely back in the bag, she noticed how heavy they still looked in his frail hands. Without thinking, she said, "Where do you live, sir? I can help carry these for you." He blinked at her, startled. "Oh, no, I couldn't possibly ask you to do that. You must have somewhere important to be." Maya hesitated. Every bone in her body told her to run toward the building, to save what little time she had left. But looking at him, his frail body, his soft pleading eyes, she couldn't just walk away. She shook her head. "It's fine. It's on my way. Let me?" The man studied her for a moment, then nodded slowly. "Well, if you insist." "Thank you, child. My apartment's just around the corner." So Maya took one of the bags and walked beside him, each step echoing like the sound of opportunity slipping away. As they moved slowly down the street, the voices in her head grew louder. One part of her screamed, "You're ruining everything." But another voice, the one that sounded a lot like her mother, whispered back, "You're doing the right thing." And in that moment, Maya knew, whatever the consequences, she could not be the kind of person who walked past someone in need. But little did she know, this very decision, this sacrifice, was about to turn her entire life upside down. Because sometimes the greatest opportunities don't come from interviews or resumes. They come from moments when no one is watching, when you're forced to choose between ambition and compassion. And Maya had just chosen compassion. Before Maya ever found herself standing on that busy city street, torn between her dream and an old man's spilled groceries, her story had already begun, long before the interview, long before the opportunity at Garrison Enterprises. Maya's journey was not one of privilege. She didn't grow up in a mansion or attend fancy private schools. No, her story was written in the walls of a tiny two-bedroom apartment on the south side of the city, where peeling paint and flickering light bulbs told their own tales of struggle. Her mother, Angela, was her hero, a woman who never complained, even when she worked 2 jobs that left her exhausted most nights. By day, Angela cleaned offices. By night, she worked the register at a local grocery store. Her hands were rough from scrubbing floors. Her back ached from standing for hours. Yet she never let Maya see defeat in her eyes. Maya, she would always say, I don't care if we don't have much. What matters is that you work hard, that you keep your dignity, and that you never forget to be kind. Those words became Maya's compass. But make no mistake, life was not easy. There were nights when the fridge was nearly empty, and Angela would quietly give up her own dinner so Maya could eat. There were winters when the heating bill was late, and they would bundle up in blankets, laughing and pretending they were camping inside. Through it all, Maya carried a burning determination. She would build a better life for herself and for her mother. Education became her weapon. While other kids in her neighborhood gave up or got lost in the streets, Maya pushed harder. She stayed up late with textbooks, scribbled notes under dim light, and worked part-time jobs to save up for college. She didn't just want a degree. She wanted to prove to the world and to herself that her circumstances didn't define her destiny. And so, after years of sacrifice, she graduated. The day she walked across that stage in her cap and gown, she scanned the crowd until she found her mother. Angela's eyes shone with tears, her hands clapping proudly even though she was the only parent there. That image, her mother smiling through tears of pride, etched itself into Maya's soul. But graduating was only the beginning. Reality hit fast. The bills still needed paying, and good jobs weren't easy to come by. Maya sent out dozens of applications, most never receiving a reply. Weeks turned into months, and doubt began to creep in. Was she good enough? Would anyone take a chance on her? And then came the email. Congratulations, you've been selected for an interview with Garrison Enterprises. Maya's heart nearly stopped when she read it. She whispered the words out loud, as if repeating them might make them more real. Garrison Enterprises wasn't just a company. It was the company. Known for its innovation, prestige, and global influence. A job that wasn't just a paycheck. It was a golden ticket to a new life. The position she had applied for was an entry-level management trainee role. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a foot in the door. And everyone knew that people who joined Garrison Enterprises often rose quickly. The opportunities there could shape an entire career. For Maya, it was more than a job. It was hope. She thought of her mother, still working nights at the grocery store. She thought of the little apartment that had been their world for so long. She imagined surprising Angela with the news. Mom, you don't have to work 2 jobs anymore. I got it. I made it. That dream fueled her preparation. For days leading up to the interview, Maya lived and breathed the process. She researched the company's history, memorized its mission statement, read about its CEO, Mr. Richard Garrison, a man rumored to be brilliant, but also mysterious and private. She practiced answering interview questions in the mirror until her voice was hoarse. She even borrowed a second-hand book on business etiquette to ensure she made the right impression. She didn't have money for a new suit, so she carefully pressed the one professional outfit she owned, a simple navy blue blouse and black slacks. She cleaned her shoes until they shone, styled her hair neatly, and even rehearsed how she would sit, how she would smile, how she would shake hands. Every detail mattered because she knew she might only get one shot. The night before the interview, she barely slept. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling, her mind racing with possibilities. She imagined herself walking into the tall glass headquarters of Garrison Enterprises, her confidence radiating, her words sharp and professional. She pictured the panel nodding approvingly, impressed by her intelligence and poise. And most of all, she dreamed of the moment they would shake her hand and say, "Welcome to the team." That single phrase, those 4 words, felt like the key to a future she had been chasing her whole life. But under all that excitement was a quiet voice of fear. What if she failed? What if she stuttered or froze, or gave a wrong answer? What if she blew her one chance and ended up right back where she started? She sat up in bed and whispered to herself, "No, you worked too hard. You deserve this." When dawn broke, Maya was already awake. She ate a small breakfast, kissed her mother goodbye, and stepped out into the crisp morning air. As she walked toward the towering skyline, she felt both nerves and determination battling inside her. This was it. This was the day her life would change. Or so she thought, because while Maya believed her destiny would be decided inside an interview room, the truth was far stranger. Her test wouldn't come from a panel of executives, but from the universe itself, a test not of her knowledge, but of her heart. And that test was waiting for her just around the corner.